Lollipop Chainsaw continued the trend of arcadey, replayable experiences led by famed developer Suda51 had become so well known for. The game from start to finish is a familiar low-budget grindhousey experience which is high on style and low on complexity. You take up the role of Juliet, a bubbly cheerleader with blonde pigtails who just so happens to be a descendant of a long line of zombie hunters. Her weapon of choice is a sparkling, rainbow-spewing chainsaw, and it all sounds completely ridiculous, and that is because it is. From the first moment, the game is blaring warnings that it is not to be taken seriously as a narrative. The story manages to keep up a solid pace, with several cutscenes bookending each of the 7 total stages, which all continually outdo its own insanity with each passing second. Now, combat is largely relegated to simple button presses, with few defensive options, and the game doesn't really reward you for mixing it up, so finding a couple of combos that work for you can carry you right up until the end credits. It now goes for about $65 on the PS3, and although the game is nothing groundbreaking, the clear level of charm that Lollipop Chainsaw possesses is one of its best aspects that is bound to keep players coming back time and time again. El Shaddai is a simple hack and slash and also a full-on platformer. In fact, the game is clearly divided equally between these two types of gameplay. Your journey takes you through the various floors of a tower that the angels you are tracking down created. You fight smaller demons on the way to each angel, which serves as the boss of each floor. The closest reference to the feel of the combat is the original DMC, but a more stripped down and minimal version. There's only really 2 buttons that you use to fight, one being a mid-air attack and the other a special move that is either defensive or evasive in nature. Now, the combat could be considered button mashy, but thanks to the inclusion of several abilities known as God's weapons, a bit more strategy is afforded to the gameplay. There are 3 weapons in total: a heavy shield-like smashing weapon that is slow but strong on offense and defense, a lightsaber type sword that is both quite fast and fairly strong, and a strange long-range shooting weapon that is quite hard to describe, but it's fast and allows the player to dash around. Switching between them on the fly provides a means to outsmart your enemy, and soon becomes one of the most engaging aspects of the game. If you're lucky, you'll be able to find El Shaddai for around $80 these days, with that number slowly rising as more and more people realize just how incredible this game is. Taking place in the fictional realm of Dotnia, it's the player's role as the hero to rid the land of a great evil, which is responsible for casting a devastating plague upon its citizens. At the beginning of the adventure, the game presents you with a generous amount of options to create your own character to follow you on your journey. The gameplay shares many similarities with the role-playing games of old, such as the early Zeldas and Dragon Quest titles. It all revolves around exploring the world and the many dungeons that are part of it as you utilize various items such as lanterns, bows and boomerangs to overcome the range of enemies, as well as some truly head-scratching puzzles. One of the main aspects of the game is the combat, which sees the size of your sword continually growing once being swung. It makes taking out enemies all the more easier, and on top of this, the sword can be fully customized and upgraded throughout the course of the adventure. If you missed out on this one when it first released, it now goes for around $75. Splatterhouse originally released for the arcades in 1988 and saw a selection of ports to various consoles and devices over the years. It wasn't until 2010 that the IP was resurrected and introduced by Namco. Naturally, it's a stark difference between both versions, but the latest incarnation retains the spirit of the original and presents a combat-centric take on the concept. You take up the fight as Rick and engage in either hand-to-hand combat or with a wide range of makeshift weapons that makes taking on the hordes of enemies an absolute breeze. The main goal of the combat is to link attacks together to perform combos and collect the blood that is dropped by the enemies. The more you collect, the more moves and special attacks you can unlock. It provides a nice sense of progression, which keeps each battle from becoming stale due to a constant string of new abilities coming your way. The most devastating being the splatter, which finishes off enemies in a variety of gory ways. But it's not only the combat that makes up the gameplay. Several platforming elements and puzzles are part of the natural progression of each level and split up the action nicely. Sometimes these quiet moments can provide some much needed downtime, especially after some of the insane fights you'll find yourself getting into. The game now goes for about $80 if you can find a copy which is complete. Folklore is essentially an action RPG that all revolves around two main protagonists and takes place in the present day, after the two main characters experience separate events that compel them to visit a mysterious village and island. It doesn't take long for them both to realize that everything is not as it seems, before they are plunged into a separate reality that lends much inspiration from Celtic myths. Now you have the choice of choosing between the two characters, which both have unique journeys and manages to promote subsequent playthroughs once you've finished it, mainly in order to see everything the experience has to offer. Now where Folklore truly shines is within battle, with most of the enemies that you encounter are able to be absorbed upon defeating them. It's a pretty unique mechanic and lends the gameplay an extra layer of strategy, as only 4 can be mapped to the face buttons at any one time. Each enemy usually represents a different element, so when you use them to take on your foes, switching the right ones in and out to effectively address the situation at hand is the name of the game. Upon its release, Folklore didn't manage to find its feet, and as a consequence went by largely unnoticed, and this no doubt contributed to its now $80 asking price. Starting out life on the PlayStation 1, Spyro soon became synonymous with the PlayStation brand and went on to become one of its best sellers. The series continued to evolve and iterate up until the final entry in a trilogy known as the Dawn of the Dragon, and once again saw players taking up the role of Spyro and Cinder as they continued their journey to ultimately bring an end to the Dark Master. The adventure is largely split up into several different locations that see you visiting ancient ruins to lava-filled plains and flooded wastelands. Now the first aspect that many will notice are the incredible visuals, especially the effects which manage to light up the screen in style when encountering enemies. As Spyro you have a range of abilities to help you during these moments, from breathing fire to more intricate skills that involve both Spyro and Cinder working together. The minute-to-minute gameplay is engaging and tight. It's largely broken up by several platforming sections as well that offer an escalating sense of difficulty as you make your way to the end. Dawn of the Dragon serves as a worthy end to the reboot trilogy and sees Spyro going out with a bang. A physical copy will probably set you back around $85 these days, and expect to pay a lot more for a sealed copy. The PS3 was home to a wide range of incredible sports games, especially when it came to basketball. College Hoops 2K8 is one of the standout examples, whereas most companies used to simply take their NBA engine and slap a coat of NCAA paint over it, fans of the sport could instantly sense the difference. The subtle changes in the rules and setup is what makes college ball so appealing. Thankfully, 2K managed to put together an impressive package that captured the essence of the sport and is quite easily the best in the series. The 2K8 edition introduced many new aspects to the franchise, the first and most celebrated being the inclusion of a 6th man meter, which measured the crowd's enthusiasm. By performing well in the game, you could boost the meter, causing the fans in the stand to go wild. This had an effect on your team, boosting their confidence and allowing them to play better than they normally do, and it also affected the opponents, distracting them and causing them to play less effectively. It was a really neat inclusion, which made College Hoops 2K8 one of the most enjoyable sports games on the system. It now goes for around $110 and has quickly become one of the more sought after games on the PlayStation 3. JoJo's All-Star Battle is a 3D fighter that brings many aspects of the beloved anime to life. As you would expect, a huge amount of characters make an appearance and all offer their own unique moves and special abilities. Trying out each is one of the best aspects of the game. They all differ in style and general attributes as well, from the nimble and fast to the slow and strong. Half of the fun is making your way through the roster and finding one that suits you best. Although due to this, it does have the potential to seriously mess with the balance of the game. It's nothing that completely ruins it though. As with most fighters, you can expect to see a range of different modes to indulge in. From the campaign to versus and online, there's a generous amount of options, but you'll most likely find yourself spending most of your time in the campaign. It introduces some unique rules where players will battle against the customized characters of other players, or a boss may appear instead. You can also earn medals and other prizes for competing well in the mode, and characters can be further customized with aesthetic changes that affects how the fighters look in battle. Visually, All-Star Battle is the most impressive aspect of the experience. Each character model, stage and special ability are lovingly animated, which manages to lend a real sense of style to each encounter. It now goes for around $120, so finding a copy won't be cheap. The PlayStation 3 managed to introduce many unique games to us, one of them being Africa that tasked you with becoming a wildlife photographer. It seems to take the basic concept of Pokemon Snap and build upon it in many interesting ways. For starters, the environments you get to explore are truly impressive. Whether you're exploring by jeep or on foot, they each serve as the home of the varied wildlife you encounter throughout the game. From elephants to giraffes and zebras, there's a generous amount on offer here. Now what makes each of the animals stand out are the incredible animations. When zooming in with your camera, you'll be able to spot specific details of each animal that lends each of them a real sense of personality. Now there's not much in the way of narrative, but it does try to add some context to the situation. You essentially get to choose between playing a journalist or a zoologist, and are sent out to catalogue the various animals in the region. Each photo you take is recorded and then sent away via email at your home base, which creates a pretty interesting loop that players will either fully engage with or instantly want nothing to do with. It's a really calm and relaxing game, which may have the potential to turn some players away, but if you're up for it, the game now goes for about $140, which is quite expensive for what's on offer. It may be a bit of a surprise that one of the most expensive games on the PlayStation 3 is a sports title. A sports title from EA for that matter. NBA Elite 11 was originally scheduled to be released for both the 360 and PS3. For fans of the sport, the game was shaping up to be something truly special, as this was the first title to debut the new Become Legendary mode that was going to play a lot like the similar modes you often see in FIFA and Madden that focuses on player progression. When compared to the previous year, the controls have been completely overhauled, with much of the actions such as shooting or layups now being assigned to the right analog stick. The intention was to offer a streamlined and much more easily accessible game, but due to the usual EA fuckery, the game never truly saw the light of day. The developers were slammed with an 18-month development cycle. Getting the game up to scratch before its release proved too much of a challenge, with glaring bugs and glitches that made the game unplayable at points. EA decided to pull the plug and cancel the release, but not before some copies managed to find their way out into the wild. That's why NBA Elite 11 can go upwards of $880 on the system. It's an absurd amount of money for a game, but due to its increased rarity, the price has absolutely skyrocketed. Well, that does it for today's video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow me on all of the socials to stay up to date on future videos and to take part in giveaways. You can also join our growing community on Discord and meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation with. I'd like to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Rhino, Skill Jim, Nano, Steve and Paddy J for their continued support that helps make these videos possible. If you're interested in joining our Discord or supporting the channel through Patreon, you'll find the links in the description. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I'll catch you next time.